Okay, I'm going to explain how the Federal Reserve uses open market operations in order to control the money supply. So, to increase the money supply, what they'll end up doing is they will buy government securities from banks. And when they buy from banks, they're putting money into the banks. So then the banks themselves have more money and they can lend this money out to more people. Um, and then people can spend the money or deposit it into other accounts, but they can spend the money. And since they're spending money and putting it back into our economy grows a bit. At least that's the goal and the aim when the Federal Reserve buys government securities from banks. Um, on the other hand, they could also try to decrease the money supply. And what they do is they pretty much just do the opposite. Instead of buying the government securities from banks, they sell government securities from banks, and that means the banks have less money to lend out. And when the banks have less money to lend out, people have less money, and that's less money that's going back into our economy. So that just pretty much decreases our money supply, and many, I guess, would shrink our economy as well. Okay, in fractional reserve banking, um, currency deposits can also increase our money supply. So what happens is, let's say somebody deposits money into a bank. Let's say they deposit $100 into a bank, and let's say that the reserve, the fraction of whatever is being deposited, the reserve is, let's say, 10%. So if you have $100 that's being deposited, and the reserve is 10%, um, that means there are $10 in reserve, and then that means that the bank can loan out the other $90, and this is the total deposit of $100. So the bank one, let's say, goes ahead and loans out $90. So let's say another bank, well, they loan it out to another person, and this person then deposits this money into another bank, and that bank also has to have a reserve of 10%. So if they deposit the $90, okay, if they deposit the $90 and the reserve is also 10%, that means that second bank has to keep $9, but they can loan out the other $81, and that's the total of $90 there. So this second bank loans it out to another person, and then this person goes out and, let's say, they deposit the $81 in another bank. And again, the banks have to have a reserve of 10%, which is fractional reserve, a fraction of the deposit. So this would be $8.10 and in the reserve, and that means that they can lend out $72.90. And if this gets done enough times, eventually what happens is basically what is known as the money multiplier, and that's how much it grows. As the money supply is from the original deposit of $100. Um, Eventually, $1,000 will be part of the money supply from that initial $100 deposit. Um, with the money multiplier, basically it's 1 divided by the percentage of reserve, which in this case was 10%. So then 1 divided by 10% is 10, and you multiply that by the initial deposit, which was 100. So the total injected into the money supply is $1,000.